all of the universe is held by Ma Durga. Who we have seen over these 9 days to be the manifestation of so many different forms. In fact, she is Adi Shakti, the first Shakti. Adi Shakti is Shakti without form, infinite as light. Adi Shakti as the original mother in the form of light. Without form, infinite. Power of consciousness at its core. Jai Mata. Great. So I'll first talk a little bit about the eighth goddess, the eighth form of Durga, whom actually it happened last night, so March 29th, on the eighth day of Navaratri. Actually, sorry, it was the ninth day of Navaratri yesterday. And we've been going through in person each day of Navaratri and the importance of the different forms that Durga takes, such as the warrior, such as Adi Shakti, such as Ma Parvati, before she's married to Shiva, when she's married to Shiva, after she's married to Shiva, etc. So there's all these different forms of Durga, and also how the 10 cosmic powers come from Durga. So the 10 tantric manifestations of the goddess, they come from Durga. And it's actually very beautiful because when we study Tantra, we study the 10 cosmic powers as like the kind of ultimate forms of Shakti. Like there's Shakti, and then under that is are the 10 cosmic powers. But actually, when we look deeper and we look at Durga, Durga is herself known as Mahashakti, as Mahadevi, as the great Shakti. So Durga isn't just, although Durga also has 9 forms that she takes, she's not just the one that we know as the, if you do an internet search and look up Durga, you're going to get you're going to get an image there of a goddess with many arms riding on the back of a tiger, or sometimes on a lion, and like this. But actually, she is Mahashakti herself. So she's also without form, or actually, yeah, she's without form. And at the same time, so she's actually encompassing all of these Mahavidyas that we study and we learn about. And it's very beautiful to put that into context, because actually myself, being on a tantric path for 20 years or more, actually more than 24 years now, I never considered Durga as more than just like maybe a Hindu goddess, which wasn't maybe worthwhile for me to even look at. For me, because I'm coming from a tantric background, and of course, there's hundreds of thousands of goddesses in India, in Hinduism. So I never considered the importance that Durga has in the tantric tradition, and also in Hinduism, of course. And of course, we learn as well that that tantra, that Hinduism has a lot of tantra in it already, even though maybe some Hindus don't want to admit it all the time. The worship of the goddess in India is not coming from Vedanta. Where is it coming from? It's coming from the tantric side of Hinduism. And actually, the practices that they have in Hinduism, it's at any date, it is just an amalgamation of different practices, different focuses on different deities and on different practices that they have. So there isn't like a set kind of thing, or there isn't a set way that Hinduism is practiced. Like you have to do it this way and this way. All over India, it will be different. And from the Middle Ages to the 1800s to now, there's always shifts happening and always different kind of, maybe we could say even trendy goddesses coming about, or trendy practices coming about, or whatever. I don't want to say that because it's not like that, but things become more popular than less popular because certain teachers come around and they speak about the importance of something, and they're strong teachers and they're very influential teachers and very spiritual teachers. And then people might change the way that they look at things, and then put more influence on one thing or another. So the ninth form of Durga is known as Siddhidatri. And Ma Siddhidatri is known to be the giver of perfection. So actually, that word perfection is in Siddhidatri. It's spelled Siddhidatri. So Siddhidatri. And so Siddhi, as we might know or may not, Siddhi is the word for perfection. Now it's used in a sense that whenever we do certain practices, we can start to gain siddhis from these practices, such as, and these are usually, there's 8 major siddhis, like perfections as they're called, but we could also call them maybe supernatural phenomenon. So the 8 major ones, I don't know all of them off the top of my head, but one of them would be able to become as small as an atom, as small as an atom, and to be able to travel the universe as an atom, as a little ray of light or atom. The other would be to become as large as the universe. The other is to destroy the universe at will. Another is to create the universe at will. So these are they're called the Maha Siddhis. So the great cities from kind of the cities that Mahashakti would have, right? So So the ability to do these things would be something that Mahashakti has herself. And so these are called the perfections. So there's 8 major ones, and then there's many, many smaller ones like, I don't know, telepathy or being able to fly through the air, or even being able to concentrate one pointedly for long durations of time. This could be considered a siddhi because it's so far from the everyday mind that it is that it's very difficult. And so she's known to be the giver of perfections, of these siddhis, and she blesses her devotees with wisdom and grants them spiritual knowledge. So Siddhidatri is a little bit like the one who will bring us to realization. She's the one who can bring us moksha and enlightenment. She's worshipped by both demons and by gods, is surrounded by gods. All alike, because demons, as the many stories and mythologies of India have it, they, like demons or demigods, as they're called sometimes, they want to become powerful because of their ambitions. And so this power that they want to have comes from the grace of Siddhidatri. So then by doing a certain amount of practice and worship for Siddhidatri, Siddhidatri will kind of grant those boons for them. Now, this is kind of one of these things that we would wonder, how can such a being give powers to a being that they know will be the powers or perfections will be known to will be negative in the world. How can this be? And so it's an interesting thing that when we work with Shakti, when we work with this Shakti energy, we can use this Shakti energy for anything we want. So be it for good purposes or for negative purposes, we can use it for anything we want. And all of the mythologies that talk about demons getting boons from Brahma or from Siddhidatri or whatever, they all end up losing in the end. So mythologies are full of this, that it is possible, even if you want to do a negative act, that it is possible because Mahashakti doesn't discriminate. She doesn't discriminate between one person who seems to be good and another person who seems to be bad. As the saying goes, the road to hell is led with good intentions. So you might have really good intentions and want this boon to, I don't know, to whatever, but actually it might be the other way around, that the person who wants that boon to do negative things, they might actually end up doing more positive things than the one who has good intentions. So we don't really know. And I don't think, and Mahashakti doesn't discriminate between the person who seems good or the person who seems bad. We receive this Shakti energy from the practices we're doing, especially when we're doing tantric practices. We're getting this energy, and then we can do it for whatever we want to. Now, of course, we have a guru, that Guruji Maharaj, who keeps us from doing harm, or if he notices we are doing harm, like we're gaining power, or especially like, say, getting power over other people and whatever, he instantly can take this away, this energy away, and then we're left with nothing. The same thing can go if we say we use this Shakti to make money and we become very wealthy, we become very rich from using the Shakti in this way. There's also karma. So it's not necessarily a bad thing to make money, to have money, to use Shakti for the money, but there is a karma there. So next time we want to build that Shakti, it might be a little bit more difficult for us because part of us being able to work with Shakti and being able to have a guru who can teach us how to build Shakti, part of it is having a good enough karma to be able to walk a path. So same thing goes if we want to use the energy for nefarious acts, then like in some of the examples that we've heard in the past 9 days, to have it so that no man could destroy me. I'm immortal, and so I go throughout the heavens and the earth destroying everybody. There's a karma to pay for that, and we won't be able to even approach tantra in the future or approach these things in the future. It just won't be accessible to us. If we remember the yamas and niyamas from yoga, that the first thing that we have to respect is that of ahimsa, of non-violence, and then of truthfulness, and then of this, of that. So there's kind of like this, and they call it the karmic law. There's a divine law which tells us about karma, introduces karma to us, and says that from our actions, we have reactions which will come about. So so that's how and why demons would worship Ma Siddhatri, and also gods and demigods and this sort of thing. So the legend goes with Ma Siddhatri that the legend begins at a time when our universe was nothing more than a deep void, absolute darkness, no thought of darkness. There wasn't even like a concept of darkness because there never was light, completely void. We could call this the pure consciousness, absolute emptiness, absolutely nothing. And so here there's no sign of life. There's no sense of duality. It's only non-dual. And so this is when we look back in this other goddess named Kushmanda. Kushmanda was the goddess connected with Adi Shakti. So in the beginning there was that void, and then there was light that was there. But that light actually had always been there, just never noticed. And then as that light was there, it was just one ray of light that was infinite. But then that light, as we started to come closer to that light, or as the light started to expand, we started to recognize that it was infinite. Then the light became into that infinite, but there was still no form there. And then out of that light took the shape or the form of Kushmanda. The Kushmanda, Kush means smile. So she's a very shining and beautiful form of Ma Durga. And she is smiling. And as she smiles, the first smile, all the universes are created. All of the rivers, lakes, oceans, trees, everything is created. And it's created all with the smile from Kushmanda. So it's actually a very beautiful image that we have, that everything around us, also those things which are considered nefarious or bad or negative, everything was created with the smile on the face of Ma Durga. So the story continues, because right there, Kushmanda, the Kushmanda story I told before kind of pretty much ended. But the story continues that Ma Kushmanda then went on to create the Trimurti. Trimurti, and Murti is Murti is like a statue or something, a form or an image that we worship. So it could be anything really. Even a picture or statue of Jesus could be considered a murti. And so the Trimurti, tri means three, three in Sanskrit, very close to English, isn't it? Three. So the Trimurti is Lord Brahma, the energy of creation, Lord Vishnu, the energy of preservation or of sustenance, and Lord Shiva, the energy of destruction. So actually, many people feel like Brahma is the creator of everything, but then they Brahma and Vishnu and Shiva, as we also talked in these 9 days in person, Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva, they kind of actually got talking together, and they started to realize, hey, wait a minute, we're not all there is. Something must have created us. So then they go on to actually speak and ask the god, or maybe not ask the goddess, but just share their glories of the goddess, of the one who even created them. So once they were created, Lord Shiva asked Makushmanda to bestow him with perfection. So he was like, oh, great mother, I'm Lord Shiva. I have more to this world than just destroying things, but I would like to have all of the great perfections. So Kushmanda created another goddess who bestowed Lord Shiva with these 18 kinds of perfection. So these included Ashtasiddhi, so the 8 primary forms of perfection that I was talking about before, and then 10 secondary forms of perfection, which I don't know what they are. I haven't really studied these, but they're probably great, pretty awesome, just like the other 8. Like, as I said, becoming as small as an atom, as large as the universe, destroying the universe at will, creating the universe at will, etc., etc. So the goddess who had the ability to bestow these perfections was actually Ma Siddharatri, the giver of perfection. Now, Lord Brahma was asked then to create the rest of the universe. However, Lord Brahma, since he required a man and a woman for creation, because for him, the creation was more like Shakti's role in the creation of the universe was to create Brahma. It's like she was too busy doing other things. She was like, okay, you, kind of like if we're an employer and we have some employees, we can't go out and deliver newspapers all day because we have to do other things, manage the other 3 employees. So then Lord Brahma was given the task to create human beings, or to create animals and all the rest. So he had a practical issue that it, as the story goes, that it was required to have a man and a woman for creation, because so far there were only men created in the universe, Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. And so therefore, so he prayed to Ma Siddharatri and asked her to help him. Upon hearing Lord Brahma's request, Ma Siddharatri converted half of Lord Shiva's body into a woman. Therefore, Lord Shiva is known as Ardhaneshwar, half woman, and Nari means woman, and Ishwar refers to Lord Shiva. So half man, half woman, half Lord Shiva, half woman. And so at that point, then Lord Brahma was able to create living beings with the rest of the universe. So it was Navaratri who helped Lord Brahma with the creation of the universe and also bestowed perfection upon Lord Shiva. One more perfection of him being completely the manifestation of man and woman in this form of Ardhaneshwar. So it is believed that Ma Siddharatri blesses her devotees with spiritual wisdom and also to destroy ignorance. And of course, these 8 perfections are the perfections that we would have with a very, very ultimate realization. So yeah, and I say this because these 8 different cities, the cities of, I'll go over them once more. I only remember 4: become as small as an atom, as large as the universe, create the universe at will, destroy the universe at will. These are the powers of Shiva, really. So even in some tantric paths, especially I've heard in the Kashmir Shaivist path, the one that Abhinavagupta spoke in all of them, but there is one tradition, I forget which one, that he was more connected with. He spoke about this, and that as we get closer to Shiva, these cities kind of start to dawn upon us. We could say that Siddhidaratri, who is the giver of perfection of the 9th day, that she might bestow that on us as we get closer to that perfection ourselves, that the perfection of the ultimate universe. So these 8 cities are like they're at some point bringing us closer to the divine, but they don't maybe help us with our enlightenment. They could be a trick after all, like the great Vivekananda. The great Vivekananda, when his teacher realized that when his teacher Ramakrishna Paramahansa, when his teacher realized that Vivekananda would be the next one in the lineage, and when he realized that Vivekananda is very, very great, he brought him after a meditation or after a puja or something. He brought him to the side, and he said, "I want to give you these 8 Mahasiddhis," because Ramakrishna Paramahamsa is said to have these siddhis himself. And he said, "I want to bestow my grace upon you and bring to you these 8 Mahasiddhis. I want to share this with you." And Vivekananda looked at him with a lot of love and devotion and said to him, "Guruji, I will accept these if you want, but tell me, will these bring me any closer to the divine? Are these needed for my dharma, like for my dharma in teaching this?" Because he was already realizing what a great teacher he would be and how many millions of people he would influence also in the West. And so he was starting to realize these things as well. And he asked, "Will it help others in any sense, and will it help myself become enlightened?" And Ramakrishna said, "Actually, no, they won't." And so without a second thought, Vivekananda said to him, "Then I don't want them, Guruji. I don't want these if they won't help me. Help other people, and if they won't help me in my own spiritual practice," which is actually very beautiful. And Ramakrishna, he said to him, "Good answer, very good answer." This is why you're the one to take on this lineage. So it's kind of like this the cities can act in a certain way as distractions for us. Like Artemis talks about the kingdom, and you want to get to the center of that kingdom. You want to get to the, why not the king or the queen's chamber, where the treasure is at, where the where the most important place is. But as you're approaching this kingdom, you notice that there's a lot of markets on the outside of the kingdom. And okay, you pass through there, you know, that marketplace is like, okay, whatever. But then you cross over the gates, and then there's lots of other things that distract you. There's like minor cities in one corner, you know, the ability to have telepathy, to see auras. Another corner, you can learn how to astral travel. Another corner, you can gain so much power and wealth that you can live like a god on earth. You can just not do anything. You could have people feed you grapes your whole life. You could do anything you want. That's in another corner. And so there's all these different distractions stopping you. There's like knowledge. You could have knowledge of all the different universes. You could have knowledge of things which are forgotten or unknown, kind of like we might even call them like alien knowledge or something like this, like knowledge of things that would make you rich and famous because you have access to information like nobody else. Another corner, you can gain a lot of charisma to have fame and glory, to have the power over other people through your charisma, but not having like a deep ability to bring people to a deep and authentic understanding towards the divine. So then there's all these different distractions that kind of, you know, we go down one of these and we could get lost for thousands of years, like we see with these different demigods in the stories that have been shared. And you get lost into that frame of mind. You really want this thing and you become obsessed with it. And then it takes so long for you to as well attain these things. It's not like you just walk into this kingdom and then you kind of like you have all the money to bring all these things to you. No, you have to work also very hard for these things. So then we get obsessed with these things. Like, for example, so many people are obsessed with wealth and needing money and all of this. But actually, it could be the very thing that's distracting you from truth, really. It could be the thing that, of course, we need to be able to live like a comfortable life. But then we see this with people, it becomes like an obsession and we want more and more, and it's never enough because that comfortable life isn't enough for us because we feel like we're always fulfilled from, not from within, but from without. We feel like we're fulfilled from the outside. And so we get obsessed with this and we keep wanting more, to bring more and more objects, things of the material around us. And in the end, it's the play of the mind. The mind wants quantity. What does the heart want? What does the heart feel? The heart doesn't want quantity. The heart wants quality. So it's good to also reflect on different aspects of things in our life and where does our deeper intention, or maybe not intention, but where do our actions lie? From what thoughts are what thoughts are arising that cause us to move into such actions, or cause more thoughts to happen, so that we become obsessed with certain things, and so that we want this quantity instead of just the qualitative aspect of life, and the movement towards something which is within and not without. So there's all these things, and all these things are on the outside. I mean, you could say, okay, what about astral travel? If I can be conscious in my dreams, then can't I do a lot of good? It's true. It's true. We can do a lot of good if we could be conscious in our dreams. We could help other people. We could go down to the pits of hellish realms and save people from there. But we can also do that in our everyday life. We can also save people from the hellish realms of other people's minds in our everyday life as well. We don't need to have like a special power to lucid dream or to see auras for that. It's obvious when somebody's suffering. And so we can take action in our everyday life. So then by the time we do reach that kingdom, and actually, in saying this, it's an organic thing that has to happen. We can't push things in one way or another. We can't like say, I want the center of that kingdom and that's that. If you get distracted by whatever, the need to be wealthy, then that's what has to happen for your soul to understand that you won't gain happiness by being wealthy. And all these things are like this. So being organically by being led by the organic aspect of life means that there has to be a certain maturity of the soul before we're solely, no pun intended, before we're solely focused on one thing. Until then, yeah, we have to travel around and do different things, and we have to be distracted. Now, the point of a spiritual practice actually is one of these things that it's there with the hopes. At least the teacher is hoping, the teacher or the guru is hoping that with such a practice or practices, that it will kind of lead one to a place of greater understanding within, and lead one to aspire for truth, even just or inspire first for truth. So to have an inspiration to want to move into truth, and then eventually to be aspired towards this, towards truthfulness. And this is all that like the teacher can hope for, that we can eventually, as students, as Shisha, that we can eventually be able to do enough practice, go deep enough into the core of our being, to the essence of our being, to be able to touch upon that for long enough, and then to be able to uncover a deeper meaning. And then once we uncover that deeper meaning, really all those other things, that need to learn how to astral travel, or the need to become wealthy and famous, the need to become, I don't know what it would be, the need to have telepathy, and these are just supernatural things. But there's lots of things in our everyday life as well that we become fixated on. And hopefully, the teacher's intention is that hopefully they lead us to a place where we go deep enough within, so that we aren't looking on the without. We're actually just looking within, and we're able to start being guided by our own inner guru. So what is that own inner guru? That own inner guru comes whenever we really trust in ourselves deeply. And we don't need to ask the advice, like, should I don't know, go to India, or should I go to Russia, or should I swim in the Atlantic, or should I swim in the Indian Ocean, or whatever it is, so that we don't need to ask This because we trust ourselves and we trust life and we trust the universe. We trust Adi Shakti and Adi Shiva enough so that the decisions we make are the right decisions because we're led by this inner guru, or we could say the inner intuition. Now, I don't really, and I know Artemis doesn't like to talk. We don't like to talk too much about this inner guru thing because people focus so much on that inner guru and they refuse to find an outer guru, which the outer guru is important until the inner guru is actualized. It's not the other way around. We just don't have an inner guru and we don't need anything else. Kind of like trying to learn advanced mathematics and all you know how to do is add and subtract. You'll probably never get to learn advanced mathematics unless you're very gifted. And the world has some very gifted spiritual practitioners where there wasn't an obvious outer guru. But yes, they were very special. And so for us, we're mere mortals, and of course, lots of ignorance with us all the time. So we do what we can and try not to make too many mistakes along the way. So, so the cities, maybe I was a little bit negative with the cities as well. The cities can be helpful for us, but they usually come of their own accord. They come of their own accord when we're ready to share certain things that we need to share. Like our Guruji Maharaj, he's able to become as small as a beam of light, able to become the size of an atom. But he does it as part of the path in order to check the system of his closer students to be able to see where they are on the path, to be able to see what is necessary for them to practice or for them not to practice. So then, and for him, it's very obvious where our energy systems are whenever he does this body scan. And in the old days, he used to actually be able to go in and repair things that were damaged. He doesn't do this anymore. When I first met him, he felt that there was a problem with ajna. And so he was actually able to go into the body as a small beam of light, as an atom, and then to be able to repair and then find his way out again. And the difference in my own mind or my own ability to meditate was like night and day, before and after. So before, there was a feeling like I could never really have a feeling of expansion of mind. There was never a feeling of being able to disappear or be able to, I guess, go into samadhi. But then after, it was that pathway was much clearer for me and much more obvious. So of course, like, if you had this siddhi gifted upon you and you could help one person to get closer to their divine essence, then it will be worthwhile. But these siddhis are never something, usually when we hear stories of yogis walking on water or doing different crazy things, more often than not, it's usually just false thing, like it's false. It's things that are, teachers are trying to make themselves big, so they make such claims, but then there isn't anything backing it or whatever. So The problem with cities is that they can just distract us. They don't need to, they don't always have to, but they can distract us so that instead of, like, let's say you receive the city to walk on water, like what purpose would that show? Except for, okay. Thank you, Sophia. Take care. You can see the rest in a bit. Yeah, we'll upload it. Take care. Okay. Sophia just left. For those of you, in case you didn't know. So, so yeah, these cities can mainly just act as distractions, like walking on water, for instance. We hear stories that Jesus could walk on water, but he didn't do public demonstrations. He didn't bring 1,000 or 2,000 or 100,000 people to the coast and do these grand demonstrations. He showed a few of his close disciples because they were in doubt. Sometimes it is necessary for closer disciples for them to be able to be more fixated on a path, or to be able to be more surrendered to a path, for them to see you do a nice trick from time to time. And walking on water for a being, it's just kind of another trick. Like, I don't know, I can't do it, for instance. I don't think that I can do it, but it's like a trick, like shining a flashlight. 200 years ago, if you did that with a flashlight, wow, you could do public demonstrations, and as long as you had enough batteries to last, then you would probably be the next Jesus or something, being able to, or maybe you would be put at the stake and burned, but most probably that. But if that didn't happen, you'd probably just be hailed as the greatest being that ever lived since Jesus, because like that's an amazing thing. But we know that it's not so amazing to shine a flashlight. Anybody can do it as long as they have a flashlight at hand. And so you can buy them at dollar stores, you can buy them at expensive stores, they have them on phones, they're everywhere. So it's not a big deal. And it's just a trick after all, and a tool for us. So these cities, we just have to be careful that if they do someday dawn upon us, and if you continue practicing, continue to move into your practice and continuing down the line of Tantra, these cities will come for us, and they will knock at our doors, especially. And so we just have to be prepared to, to not let it go to our heads, because the problem with a fast path, such as Tantra, is that can happen. These cities or these different things that come, they can go to our heads. But with a faster path like Tantra, we always need to have a teacher, a guru, so that the teacher or guru kind of keeps us in line and can see when we're kind of falling off the path by going into those things, or like having it go to your head, or building up bad karma for yourself, or displaying such things, or all the rest. And yeah, slower paths, like I don't know, a very slow path would be like the path of bhakti, or a slower path is like the path of bhakti. Things are integrated more, so our spiritual life is very integrated, or our everyday life is very integrated with our spiritual life. So then we don't need to have a guru if we're on the bhakti path. We just sing songs and pray and all the rest of these things. We don't need to have somebody to check in with. And these things might happen or might not happen, but moving deeper into spirituality, it will be many, many years before we start to realize deeper things and have certain things like that happening. So then we're just much more integrated, and we have less chance of misusing um, certain gifts that are given to us. Good. So that's about Siddhis. Siddhartha, who bestows cities and is worshipped by many beings. She's the last of the goddesses, last of the 9 different forms of Durga. And yeah, this is well for all of you here. This is our last talk because tomorrow we have the feast, and then we move out of this place by 11 a.m. on Saturday morning. Our new place is just across the way, like 15 meters or something. But yeah, after that we'll be in more public settings, I believe. But of course, closer ones of you, whoever's staying, can probably come over. I don't know. I don't want to say yes. I haven't asked. I haven't asked the other party, so I can't give any guarantees.
You can just come with my thing and
Yeah, I'll talk from upstairs. Okay, so I'm open to questions and answers by all of you. You can just unmute yourself whenever you want. Yeah, we have such a big crowd here on the Zoom call. So there's 2 other people besides me. There's 3 back here, by the way. 3. 4, but one's hiding.
Who's with us? Krista is here?
Krista and Rhiannon.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
So I'm open for whatever questions. Late for you, Krista, I think. Isn't that?
Yeah, it's 11:30 for me. Stayed up late to join you guys. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, Rhiannon, I'm sorry I didn't let you in. I was reading some notes. So you'll have to watch the first part of that when the recording gets available.
Okay, yeah, no worries.
Mhm. Do you have any questions while you're unmuted, Rhiannon?
Nothing's coming up right now.
Okay.
Thank you. Nothing's coming up.
I disconnected for a minute, but I was gonna ask about whether I was gonna ask about participating in sweat lodges while working with Tantra. I was invited to a sweat this Sunday, and I was thinking it could be a beautiful way to sort of round off Navaratri. And I was wondering if I would sweat out the sadhana and or something like that. I don't know.
No, that's fine. Yeah, no, that's totally cool. Yeah. I wouldn't be in there and do mantra necessarily. I would do exactly what the shaman or whoever is leading it, what they would recommend you do. So if you chant something else, then just do that. We lost Krista, so I have to probably repeat myself. Did you catch that, Krista? We lost you for a second.
No, my internet. Yeah, but I can listen to the recording for your answer.
No, I'll just repeat it because it was bad.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be practicing mantra. I would just do whatever it is the shaman or the person who's leading the ceremony is doing, is recommending for us to do, for you to do. Yeah, for you to do. So don't try to mix things up in different traditions.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I would want to go into that space respecting like their
Mhm.
offering and then respecting Tantra when it's time to do that. Yeah.
Yeah, and then when you do your mantra, um, leave enough space, 5 hours in between your mantra and the sweat lodge, kind of thing, either side, so that the energies have time to settle as well with both. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Okay.
I'm trying to word this, but you said that like when we start to accumulate Shakti, like all the Shakti, we can sort of decide what we do with it. And that like, yeah, we might want to use it for like, I don't know, creative pursuit or to make money or like whatever it is we feel we need. But how do we actually know that like what we choose to do with it is for like our dharma or just like for good? Because I feel like, yeah, I feel like it can just be like a distraction from like going deeper.
Mhm.
If it's something say that comes up in a japa or mantra practice and it feels like something that resonates, but how do we know that's not just like another line trying to deviate us from just like pursuing God, doing that like at the center?
Yeah, okay. Could you hear that on your end? No. Okay, so the question is, how do we know that whenever we build Shakti and we're ready to use that Shakti for something, how do we know that actually we are doing it for the right things and not just maybe some imagination, that we are putting it to use in our dharma rather than just imagining that we are. And really, when it comes down to it, Guruji Maharaj is sharing this knowledge with us and sharing this Shakti with us for spirituality, not for anything else. So, of course, if we're very poor and we can't like make uh, enough money to live and feed ourselves and to live frugally, we could say, then we can use some of that Shakti for that. But at some point, it becomes like, okay, too much. Like Guruji has said that, for instance, Sadhguru, before Sadhguru became super famous, he was kind of big. Guruji Maharaj used to say that Sadhguru is, and he hasn't ever said this about many people, but that Sadhguru is enlightened and in the body, which doesn't happen very often, apparently. Like fully enlightened, fully in moksha, lots of Shakti in the body. But this past, maybe a couple of years ago, we asked him about this. He said that Sadhguru is taking on this role of becoming famous. He's using the Shakti for the wrong purpose. But when Sadhguru is asked about it, he knows that he's just trendy. He knows he's being trendy. And so he's trying to influence as many people as he can through that trendiness. He's like, he's playing in the Leela. So he knows that that's what he's doing. But still, Guruji would say it's too much. You don't need to become that famous or have that much money, or like, with all that money that he has. Like for Guruji, if he gets a big donation and they don't need it at the ashram, or they don't need it for the Navaratri festivities, or they don't need it for this or that, he donates it right away. Like he would like to have a school, for instance, and to run a school through the donations of his disciples and all the rest. So he's very selfless in this way, and he feels like anything that comes to him, he doesn't use or take any of it. It's all just for his sangha. It's all for his immediate family, but they only need so much, and then after that it's for the sangha and then for the wider community. So yeah, in the beginning, yeah, focus that energy towards the divine. And because it's also said, and it's in alignment with this, that it's also said in the Bible, seek ye first the kingdom of God, and all else shall be added unto you. Which is meaning, put the sacred at the center of the altar, and everything that needs to come to you will come. And the work, like your life becomes more harmonious. And you have trust. If you're really doing this, then you also have trust and faith in whatever the universe is bringing to you. And it might mean that you need to get a bigger house or a better car, or these kind of mundane things, and that's also okay. But it's whenever it becomes like a 3-car garage isn't enough, I need a 4-car garage, the Mustang and the Ferrari isn't enough, I also need a Lamborghini. It becomes like using that good fortune for, because the reason, karmically speaking, why people are wealthy like this is because they were very generous in their past. So in their past lives. And so in order for them to be wealthy in the next life as well, to have that abundance, then they also have to give a lot, donate a lot, like the wealth of a king, to share and share and share. A good king, not a bad king. So yeah, it's also not bad to have money by any means, but you just have to distribute the wealth, because some people are like magnets with money. It just comes to them very easy, and others have a super hard time to just take care of their everyday needs. So share the wealth, pay it forward. Was there a specific example that you could think of that?
Yeah, for me, I was thinking more about like something that comes up, like with I don't know, just doing like some creative writing, or just like something that's more like from me, out like that kind of shakti, like I don't know, writing poetry or like just creative writing.
Yeah, so the question was, what about creative writing, or something that comes from within, some kind of creative expression? And of course, like this is fine. Yeah, can totally, like that's, whenever we really start to tune in with the divine and with the sacred, the work, the creative expression that we have actually is divine in some way. Like like this person that we had in the recent training named Toots, her poetry was amazing. It was so beautiful. And she has a lot of this, she has a lot of Shakti. She has a lot of something that is there, and her poetry really shone through, and yeah, well, this is a perfectly fine way. Or the same thing with art. The closer that we get to the divine, whenever we do visual art forms, it brings others closer to the divine too, like the Sixtine Chapel or something like this. Like there's no There's no problem with this ever. Yeah, okay, call. We'll have to have just a short break. Just, oh, you don't need me. Okay, yeah.
Do you need to be there?
No, I don't need to be here.
You don't?
You can go.
Oh.
For tomorrow. Fantastic. Oh, you're excited. You don't have a question.
I do.
Okay.
Let's just try space.
No, ask.
How do I word this? In regards to karma, like you had mentioned the other night, what Guruji said about when people die, like it could be some beautiful, amazing space and like to be happy for them. But then where does karma come into this and like other lives? Like when I die from this theory, like will my soul be resting in enlightenment or pure consciousness, hopefully, but then where does my karma go? Do you understand?
Yeah. So the question was, where do I go after death? Basically, where do I go after death? And specifically after death, that the deeper aspect goes to enlightenment and then karma continues on. Actually, your consciousness is always enlightened. There's always, just like there's always the moment here, right now, is like the past and the future, they're products of the mind, just thoughts, just bubbles. But if you didn't have a concept of past or future, then you would be right now. You probably actually, because to understand the now, sometime, like to understand the now from this point of view of mind, you would then start to be building a new reality about yourself. Like, oh, I don't know my name. Oh, I don't know what this is. You would start to recreate, like it happens with people who have amnesia. So consciousness is always enlightened. It's never not united with the great spirit, or with Mahashakti, with Mother, with Shiva, with whoever you want to talk about. And so there is in India discussion regarding what happens after death. So tantrics are saying, especially I've heard in Tibetan Tantra, that that the energy doesn't die. Karma is an energy that's there, and karma can be good or karma can be bad. Karma can be pleasant or unpleasant, as it is another way to say it. And so, if let's say that I'm a spiritual being and I've helped out, I've helped 1,000 people to realize the self. I've helped 1,000 people to realize the self. And I've tried to live a healthy, moral life as much as in my capacity, et cetera, et cetera. So I have kind of like I've done a lot of good things in this life. In the next life that you'll be born, it's not like that energy, and you yourself have realized you're kind of considered to be enlightened by people. When you exit and your body, the illusory vehicle of flesh or of food and the pranic body, when they die, and you leave your body, your karma continues with you. Your karma continues with you as your soul and enters into the next body. And that body that it enters into will have a very good karma, will naturally be probably very spiritually connected, will naturally be wanting to have more out of life than just the status quo, will probably have a lot of people willing to help them find that back, because they helped so many people in the past. You have a karma where people will want to help you. So then, yeah, your emotions, and of course your mind also dies, but then there's this aspect of karma, which will bring certain tendencies. So let's say you had a tendency in this life to be, say, overweight. And it's written in the stars. Like, you go to a Vedic astrologer and you don't even meet them. You're on the call with them and they're like, you know, you're overweight, aren't you? And you're like, how do you know that? Oh, it's written in the stars. And okay, wow. It's not my fault I'm overweight. It's actually like something I was destined to be. But your whole life, you've been craving for being thin, being ultra thin. So then what happens in the next life? You become ultra thin. And you're like, I just wish I was a normal weight. Or even, I like people who have a little bit of weight on their body because I'm so skinny all my life. It's such a high metabolism. I can't keep anything on me. And so then like this cycle kind of continues, where you want this, you want that, or like you need to learn different things out of the lessons of life. So you've had 5 lifetimes as born as a man, and like you just become too macho. Like you're also born into these macho societies where you're just too macho. And then you need to learn the other side of things. You need to be born in a culture that doesn't have the chauvinism, or you're born into the body of a woman in that macho society. So then you have to learn the other things, and you hate that so many men have this machoism about them, because like the souls, for us to start to move towards spirituality, the souls need to have a certain amount of maturity. And so we have to realize that we have to realize loads of things, like that wealth won't make us happy, sex won't make us, or I mean, ultimate happiness. Wealth can make us happy, but it's fleeting. Same thing with sex. Same thing with I don't know, good health. Same thing with popularity. Same thing, you know, all these things that we might be seeking, and so then a mature soul is then one who sees that those things don't really matter. What matters is perhaps the happiness of others. So then our lives, we work towards the happiness of others. And then the soul becomes more and more, what's the word, magnanimous, like more and more giving and less about me. So then you just become eventually the person like Gandhi, you know, or eventually a person like, I don't know, Ramana Maharishi or whatever. And so it is possible as well to be, and this tends to happen more with paths that are denying the world, where it's kind of more of an escapism rather than an integration of the spirit with everyday world. So less of that integration and more of just like the world is like the early Buddhists. I can't say that all Theravada Buddhists are like this. I don't want to say that at all. But there was anyway, there seemed to be, I'll say that, seemed to be that the early Buddhists saw the world as suffering, and they just wanted a way out. And they found a way out through the Buddhist teachings of going into emptiness. But then the Tibetan Buddhists came along later and they said, actually, this thing of going into emptiness and not interacting with the world, you might stay there for 100,000 years, 200,000 years, 300,000 years, but eventually that soul has to come back down and deal with things. But by that time, all of your good karma has been spent because you haven't been taking life after life, bringing good karma into it, and by doing good deeds and helping others. So then all that good karma is spent. And so then you can actually be reborn into any body of any being in any, it's not like you're born as a human, maybe you're born back from the beginning as like, I don't know, a mineral or something. And it takes you 1 billion years before you start to realize yourself as human or something. So like, yeah, the later Buddhists, Tibetan Buddhists, later on, they said, the energy doesn't just like puff out and we just merge with the divine or something. Consciousness is always with us. Consciousness is always enlightened, if that's the word we want to use. Consciousness is always free. But it's just it's kind of like we don't notice consciousness. We're like the fish in water, or there's always clouds overhead where we don't realize that there ever was a sun. We forgot that there was a sun, and it's always just cloudy, and you can't see the night sky. You can't see the stars. You can't see everything that's actually beyond this low covering of cloud. Let's say even more than clouds, fog that we're in. So we can only see like just what's right ahead of us. And some people can see a little bit further, but for most of us, we're just in this fog, and we can't see beyond that. But once that fog starts to clear through maturity, we see through the distractions in life, and we start to see through that fog because we just become more mature. We know that we can't be happy by gaining wealth, by gaining more family members, by doing this, by having more lovers, by doing this, by doing that. And so we start to be able to see through that fog and actually understand that there is a sun out there, or that there is consciousness, and we're able to connect with that consciousness very easily and also readily. In the beginning, though, the glimpses are enough. Thank God that there were masters who came back and who didn't decide to stay up in the emptiness for 200,000 or 300,000 years, because we wouldn't be here right now. It was just like an exit. And so yeah, we have like this, we're at a time when we have a great ability to realize the self. The ancient texts, they state these 4 different yugas: Satya Yuga, Dwapara Yuga, another one, and the one that we're in is Kali Yuga. Kali means black or dark. So we're in the Yuga of darkness. But Kali is also the goddess too. So we're in the time of the great goddess of darkness. And because of this, grace comes to us so much easier. And because we're kind of moving into the end of Kali Yuga, it's picking up pace, and the ability in which we can move into spirituality and move into spiritual things, have grace descend on us, is picking up so much faster. So instead of we taking 100 steps towards the divine and the divine taking 100 steps towards us, we just need to make one step and the divine takes 100 steps towards us. So if we take 100 steps, what's 100 times 100? 10,000? You know? So we have such a, even like from when I was first starting in yoga, people are being able to move into things much faster, feel things much quicker, understand things much quicker, and have have states, or not states, but have glimpses and even prolonged glimpses of pure consciousness much quicker than also even when I started. So things are really picking up. Some people call this like the great paradigm shift, or I don't know, New Age has a lot of different things. Let's see what happens. We don't need to speculate too much, but just do our best to cultivate sacred within. And whatever needs to unfold, needs to unfold. So did that kind of answer your question in a long-winded way?
No.
Okay. Say again.
But thank you.
Mhm.
I was also really interested in like the karma, like Kata's view of karma. But like, so somebody has like a really hard life of suffering, and then they die. Like, it's nice to think that, okay, their suffering is ended and they're just resting in consciousness and everything's, void but light. But then if they keep their karmas going, then they're just gonna go into another life of suffering. So really when someone dies, it's like, you can't really be happy for them.
Yeah, well, part of what karma is karma is based on intention. Karma is based as well on like what we desire and wish for. So the person who wishes their whole life for a new car, next life they'll get that new car. Person who suffers a lot, what would they be suffering from? Say mental illness. So it's said that the reason why the person is suffering from mental illness is from a karma. But once that karma is completed, we even know people in this life here, living in this world, who have had mental illnesses, and then they vanish. It's no longer a thing. Other people, they have to continue to take medicine and whatever, because modern doctors say it's like this chemical imbalance, which could be the truth, which could be that chemical imbalance caused by a karma. And so once that karma is played out, then that karma is no longer there. So it's possible that if somebody did a lot of really bad things, like a lot of really bad things, then they might have many lifetimes of suffering. It might happen that they have to suffer many times. Like one girl who came with Artemis and I to Guruji Maharaj's place. He said, we were sitting around and Guruji was asked, can you see past lives? And he said, yes, I can. And then she said, what was my past life? And he said, what? He had this kind of smile and sparkle in his eye. Why do you want to know? He said, well, I really want to know. I've always wondered. And he said, well, 3 lifetimes ago, you were a yogi, and you were a strong yogi and a good yogi. But then you did something really bad. So depending on how high up, how far into spirituality we go, especially because for him, the step after guru is yogi. So it's like, it's a high title, not like somebody who does like I didn't want to say that word. But not somebody who does modern yoga. Nothing wrong with it. I also do Ashtanga for health. But yeah, so for him it's high. So we were all like, oh wow, who's a yogi? Oh my God. She doesn't seem like she was a yogi. And then he said, and then you did this bad thing and you were born into a pig for 2 lifetimes. You were born as a pig. And so in this life, actually, she's like a fill-in actress in like Vancouver. She like has nice hands. So she does some hand, when they do that. Yeah, hand model, and sometimes it's other parts of her body too, but not her. Not here, and she's never in a leading role, so that's kind of like where she went to, and I don't think she's on a spiritual path because well, maybe, but at least not with Guruji. So it's kind of like this, that the karma wears out, the karma of being a yogi, of having good karma to be a yogi, that also wears out if we don't continue to do sadhana and practice. And like there's like like our karma, we can gain karma, good and bad, or pleasant and unpleasant, and then we can also wear that good and bad karma out too. It's not like an endless cycle of suffering and misery and suffering. Does that make sense?
So when I die, like if I'm sick, I'm off the hook.
What did you say?
I was sort of hoping that when I die, I'd just be like off the hook, like levitating.
No.
But, yeah, it actually, everything counts.
Well, yes, there's that. Everything does count and everything is, but the most important thing is to connect with pure consciousness. Because if you do this enough in your life, that when you pass away, when you leave your body, you will become pure consciousness. And the karma will stay, and you'll have to be reborn, unless like it's possible to be born in other realms or on other planets in different realms, or this sort of thing as well. But the connection with that pure consciousness, you have a great chance of realizing truth at the end of your life, especially if you've tasted it a number of times in this life. And they say it's kind of like every time you go to sleep at night, you have like a 2 to 3 second chance as you're falling asleep to wake up into consciousness before actually falling asleep. And then your whole sleep, or some duration of your sleep, can be held with consciousness while your body sleeps. After you pass away, it's said to be for 3 days that you maintain consciousness. And if you've never gone into pure consciousness before, then it's a fearful thing, because it's like the death, the ego is dying. You're not used to that process, and so there's a lot of fear that arises, and you get confused. Instead of going towards that light that's there, Adi Shakti, that original light, we get scared and we try to go away from it. And so we're in a lot of fear, trying to get back down into our body if it's still around. We're visiting our friends and family and confused because they can't talk to us and all the rest. And as time goes on, we, depending on how, and that's the thing, how detached we are from our bodies and our lives that we just had, because maybe we're really attached to the house we lived in, and so then we'll haunt the house that we lived in. as there's so many hauntings in the world because of this, and because as well the person who's haunting the place didn't have a proper burial rite, chances are, or like wasn't like cremation is the fastest way to get rid of the body, and it's so fast that people don't even realize what's happening before. So they're kind of like stuck in this bardo state. And in Tibetan Buddhism, it's believed that this bardo state can last for 40 days. And the sooner that you leave this bardo state, the like the first 3 days, it's kind of like this conscious state, and you can be reborn right away. You can choose the birth even that you want, or you can stay in pure consciousness as long as the karmas aren't pulling you back into another body. Or after the 3 days, then you're born in very high heavenly realms that you could still practice, still rest in consciousness from time to time. And then it goes down from there, depending on our karmas, what needs to be lived out there. Because also there's like karmas in these different realms as well that are played out. And over 20 days, 25, 30 days, and it's said that we're born more, we'd go into more hellish realms to pay back a lot of the suffering that we've caused in the past life. But, yeah. This is anyways the theory. I don't know all of this for certain. I do know, however, that after death, there's a lot of bliss, joy, and light and contentment, at least from my meditations. Yeah, so this you can be guaranteed as long as you are moving into a place of consciousness in your life. As long as like you make this something that's really important in your life, then there's only beauty and love that's at the other side. If that's like where your heart moves towards, rather than ego trips and ambitions and all that stuff. Did that answer your question? Good. It's okay to say no.
No, it does. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
Can I ask something?
Yeah.
Or bring clarity to this quality of the goddess, of like the wrathful goddess, and how that is different from like the mundane anger that like me as a human being might experience from time to time. And like, I guess like as a human with my like attachments and aversions, I'm adverse to feeling anger.
Mm-hmm. You got it, Krista. Okay, well, she's coming back. Maybe Krista, leave your video off, and then ask the question.
Oh yeah, that might
get disconnected so easy.
Yeah, sorry about that.
It's okay.
Yeah, I guess like, how is the wrathful goddess different from everyday anger? And yeah, what is the wrathful goddess?
Yeah, the wrathful goddess. The wrathful goddess is actually like symbolic of of something inside of us. So sometimes we need to, like, let's say that we have things in our life that we need to cut. Sometimes it's good that we do things like step by baby steps, you know, you need to cut out. You find you eat too much sugar, so then you try to cut out, I don't know, candy or whatever, and then you try to cut out something else, baby steps. But then there's some other things that we need to cut out directly, like fast, quickly, like, I don't know, hatred towards one of our family members, like it's just not serving us anything. It's not serving anybody else. And so we need to cut this right out. Or let's say, like, a good example is like smoking, for instance. You're a smoker, you try to quit, you try to cut down on smoking, it's not working for you. So then it's like, we have to find the strength. And we could say that this strength is Ma Durga. And this strength as the protector, we need something to protect us. And so we pull out this strength in order to cut things that are not serving us anymore. And so the wrathful goddess is the wrathful forms of the goddess is not, they're nothing else but the way that we can show ourselves how to be strong in times of difficulties and how to be sharp. And like the goddess Lakshmi, she's the goddess of abundance. You can't imagine her getting angry. So like, she's not going to help you to stop smoking. She wants you maybe to smoke. It's abundance, right? Lots of cigarettes everywhere. Cigarettes for everybody. You get one and you get one. You know, everybody gets a cigarette. But like, Durga is like, you know, this isn't doing me good. And on my own path, for instance, when I first started yoga, I was smoking, and I felt like, you know, every time I did a yoga practice or a meditation, I would be craving cigarettes. What a horrible feeling that was. The thing that was keeping me from just sitting, meditating. Of course, we have a lot of distractions, but being a smoker who was addicted was this craving for nicotine. And it was terrible and horrible. So next time I went back to India and I wanted to deepen into my practice, I just cut it out completely. And it was kind of this energy of Durga. Like, I wasn't settling for anything less than actually stopping, and also stopping forever. So that's kind of like this symbolism of Durga inside. But as well, the aura of the wrathful goddess, the wrathful beings. So what the wrathful beings are representing is the conquering of good over evil, of the conquering of even moral behaviors over immoral behaviors. So always when there's a wrathful deity, there's usually also some kind of demon or demigod who has done 1,000 years of some tapas, and this is in the mythologies anyways. There's usually 1,000 years of some kind of tapas, and they've done this tapas and gained the boon or a wish or something from Brahma, and they asked to be invincible. Now, what is this? Well, who is that demon who wants to be invincible? It's the mind. The mind wants to be invincible. The mind does. And what is Durga? Durga is consciousness, or the wrathful deities are consciousness. The wrathful deities are like saying, like, I will not let you overpower me. The wrathful deity, it's the heart, really. The heart is saying, and we wouldn't think that the heart is wrathful, but in a way that the heart can cut through the mind, it's definitely wrathful. The way the heart can cut the ego right in half. it's definitely wrathful. So these demons represent the mind always, and and wanting to be invincible, having ambitions, wanting to be all powerful. These are all qualities that each one of us has at some level, more or less inside of us, and we let the heart, or we let the symbol of Durga cut through this always. The wrathful goddess as well is an aspect of the mother. So the mother, when the mother is being wrathful to us when we're young, or being angry with us when we're young. Okay, some mothers aren't like this, but most mothers, and it's a classic example, when you run out into traffic or just run out somewhere where there might be a car driving, your mom will pull you back and yell at you. And at that point, it would seem like it's very wrathful, because she's very scared for you, that she doesn't want you to get hit. So she puts fear into you to not run out into the middle of the street. And for most of us, this is quite a moment in our lives, if any of us can remember this, that we just don't and wouldn't ever do that ever again. For some kids, it takes longer to learn, but it's kind of this energy of the protector, or the protectress, or whatever, that the mother wants to protect us. And so that's kind of another example, that when the mother pulls you back off the street, the mother isn't really angry with you, is she? She's not like super angry with you, but she is angry at the situation, and it's a wrathfulness that comes out for your own safety and protection. So this is how it's different from our everyday anger. Our everyday anger, yes, we should, as much as possible, try to curb it. There's some necessity for anger in the world as well. Sometimes people call it like holy anger, and we can't rationalize it always, but like we see this in the New Testament, when Jesus saw all of the money lenders and market people in the temple. I think it was the Temple of Solomon or something. And it says very clearly in their tradition that there should never be money lenders. Actually, in Judaism, there should never be money lenders, but whatever. But anyway, and Muslims sometimes will follow this, but there should never be money lenders in a temple. And also they were selling different trinkets of this and that, and there just shouldn't be merchants in the temple at all, because in their tradition, the temple was a place of God. So then Jesus wasn't angry. Jesus, like, he could walk on water. He could heal people, bring people back from the dead. He was united with his Father. He was united with consciousness, united with the ultimate consciousness. And so he wasn't like prone to anger fits or something, but he needed to make a display of anger at that time. And so in this display of anger, he threw over all of the tables and put the fear into all these money lenders and everything, because he knew what they were doing was against the laws of, I don't know, Moses or whoever it was who created these laws, and they need to follow them if they're going to be a citizen in that world. So sometimes anger can be a positive thing. Like, for instance, if somebody is treating you unfairly, okay, treating you unfairly, maybe it's okay. But what if they're treating other people unfairly? What if you see somebody beating up a child or something? You need to pull out this wrathfulness, and you need to stand up for what is good. And it's the good over evil. So this can be rationalized too, what that means, I suppose. But wrathfulness is an important aspect our being, but we just have to be careful that we're not calling it a wrathfulness when actually we just are very angry at another person. And because quite often in our anger, we feel very justified by our anger. And so we're justified in yelling at the, I don't know what, the rickshaw driver in India who tries to charge us too much money. So this has happened to everyone who's been to India probably. But that's just plain old anger, you know, because something's there. Whenever we blow up at a rickshaw driver in India, it's not the rickshaw driver. That driver is a symbol for everybody else in our life that has ripped us off in some way. The rickshaw driver, and we weren't able to say anything, that poor rickshaw driver is just the building up of all that energy and the dumping of that energy onto that one person. So, or like if somebody rejects us, like a friend rejects us, and you get really angry, super angry, and you wonder, why am I so angry? And other people have rejected me. Whereas it's because it's like built up, and like that, one person who's rejected you, the poor person is getting all of the anger of all of the sets of rejection that you've had maybe your whole life if you haven't come to terms with it. And so that's just plain old like anger. And so we can't like rationalize that into some kind of a holy anger or something. But yeah, the wrathful deities have a lot to teach us. And after all, they're kind of badass as well. Pretty cool. They're not just, that it's all not just fairies and rainbows and unicorns and dolphins, although those are very beautiful things, but the wrathfulness is kind of this other side to reality as well, this other side to beauty and love and loving kindness and everything else, that the wrathful deities show us another side to life and to our own psyche. Hope that answered your question, Krista, even though you're not here anymore. You're listening tomorrow or whenever you watch the recording again. Lost her a long time ago. Okay, I think it's time to end now. It's 9:30 here. Thank you so much. Om Namah Shivaya. Jai Madhurga. Jai Mahadevi. Jai Adishakti. Thanks for joining, Lennon.
Thank you. So good to see you.
Take care.
You too.